Okay, so picture this. You're scrolling online and you see this headline like, "A 188-year-old man found living in a cave."
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that one. Total clickbait.
Oh, absolutely. You and I, we both know that's gotta be too good to be true.
Yeah, I mean, the oldest person ever recorded was, what, 122?
John Calmette, 122 years old. Yeah. So 188. Come on now.
Definitely pushing the limits of possibility there.
But here's the thing. The internet went wild for it. People were sharing it, commenting, debating.
It's like catnip for the curiosity centers of our brains.
Exactly. So today, we're going on a deep dive to figure out why this story blew up the way it did. And more importantly, what's the real story? Because let's be honest, usually way more interesting.
Absolutely. Peeling back those layers of the internet to get to the truth.
Exactly. So this whole 188-year-old caveman thing, it went a little something like this. Dude's found in a cave near Bengaluru, India, right? And he supposedly survived all these years by, at this, living on herbs and water.
The picture of health, I'm sure.
Right. No driver's license, no birth certificate, no nothing. They're just saying he appears ancient.
Well, and to really sell it, there had to be pictures.
Oh, for sure. Grainy images of this old guy with a long white beard looking like he just stepped out of a history book.
Which, of course, everyone immediately believes because, hey, it's on the internet.
Right, but think about it. Why do these kinds of stories grab us like they do? It's like this primal fascination with longevity, with the idea that maybe, just maybe, there are these hidden corners of the world untouched by time.
It's like we want to believe in the impossible, in those things that defy our understanding of the world.
Totally. This little voice in our heads is like, well, what if it's true? But like most things that seem a little too good to be true, there's usually more to the story.
Right. Reality has a way of being a bit more, well, realistic.
It's like our brains just kind of skip over that whole critical thinking step when something sounds super exciting, especially online.
Oh, for sure. This story is like the perfect case study. It's got that clickbait headline, 188-year-old man found in cave. Who wouldn't want to click on that?
I mean, I'd at least want to see a picture, right?
Exactly. And then there are those images, right? Even if they're blurry or obviously edited, it's like, well, I'm seeing it, so it must be true.
Visuals definitely add a layer of, this is totally legit.
And then comes the sharing frenzy, right? Everyone wants to be the one to share that crazy story that'll blow people's minds.
Oh, yeah. It's like a badge of honor to be the first one to share something wild on your feed.
So before you know it, this thing is zipping across the internet with very little fact-checking happening along the way.
Yeah, it's like a game of telephone, but with misinformation.
Exactly.
So how do we, become those savvy internet detectives? Where do we even start to figure out if something's real or not?
Honestly, the first step is the easiest, but people often forget it. You have to look for credible sources. If a story is truly groundbreaking, you better believe every major news outlet is going to be all over it.
That makes sense. You'd think there'd be a lot more buzz if someone had actually, shattered the record for the longest human lifespan.
Right. And that's where this whole 188-year-old caveman story really starts to fall apart. We did some digging, and guess what? Crickets. Not a single credible news source in India reported on it.
Wow. So much for being a global sensation.
Right. And remember those pictures we talked about? Turns out a reverse image search revealed that most of them were either altered or taken from completely different stories.
It's like that saying goes, don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Truer words have never been spoken. But, the interesting thing about this whole situation is the man at the heart of it all.
Oh, yeah. Is there more to his story than meets the eye?
There is. So while that 188 years old thing is completely made up, the man himself is very real. His name is Siaram Baba, and he's actually a Hindu saint from Madhya Pradesh, not Bengaluru.
Okay, so not a cave-dwelling immortal, but still an interesting guy.
Yeah. And while he's not pushing 2 centuries, the guy's estimated to be around 110 years old, which is still pretty incredible when you think about it.
That's still a long life. He must have seen so much change in his lifetime. But I guess it shows how fast misinformation can spread and get totally twisted around.
For sure. It's a good example of why it's important to be careful about believing things that sound too extraordinary. Like in this case, multiple fact-checking websites like D-Intent Data actually debunked this whole thing.
Yeah.
Even X, Twitter, they even added a disclaimer to the original post about the 188-year-old claim.
It's nice to know that there are some safeguards in place to fight back against these kinds of viral stories.
Absolutely. This whole situation shows how important it is to be what I like to call a discerning consumer of all the information out there. I mean, think about it. We live in a world overflowing with news and opinions and everything in between. We have to be careful about what we choose to believe.
You're preaching to the choir here. I spend way too much time trying to separate fact from fiction online, and it can get exhausting.
I hear you. It's a real struggle.
It's like we need some kind of like internet superpower, to cut through the noise and see what's really going on.
Well, in a way we do. We call it critical thinking.
Oh, right. But sometimes that feels easier said than done.
Oh, totally. It takes practice.
Yeah.
But it's like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So, what are some exercises we can do to beef up our critical thinking muscles when it comes to stuff we see online?
Well, for starters, always check the source. Who's sharing this information? Are they known for, actually being credible? Do they have some kind of angle they're pushing? You got to be aware of those things.
So don't just blindly trust anything that pops up on your feed, even if it's from, someone you follow.
Exactly. Look for other reports, too. If it's a big deal, you're going to see it in multiple places, not just one random corner of the internet.
And what about those headlines that are, super dramatic? They always seem fishy to me.
Yeah, those are definite red flags. Sensationalized language, emotional appeals, anything that seems too good to be true. Usually is. Trust your gut if something feels off.
It's like they're trying to trick you into clicking.
Exactly. And speaking of tricks, don't forget about our good friend, the reverse image search.
Oh, yeah, that thing is a lifesaver. Seriously, if you see a picture and you're not sure about it, just pop it into a reverse image search. You'll find out in seconds where it came from.
It's like having a lie detector for photos.
Pretty much.
Okay, so back to Sierra Baba for a sec. Even though that 188 years old thing wasn't true, it does make you wonder, why are we so obsessed with these stories about people living for a super long time?
It's a fascinating question. I mean, on one hand, it's natural to be curious about the limits of human lifespan. We're all going to die someday, right? So maybe part of us wants to believe that there's a way to, cheat death, or at least delay it for a very long time.
It's like we're all searching for the fountain of youth. Exactly. But I think there's also something deeper going on, this longing to live longer. It speaks to this innate human desire to see what the future holds, to witness the evolution of society and technology and everything else. It's like we don't want to miss out on what's to come.
It's like FOMO, but on an epic scale.
Totally. Fear of missing out on, the next century.
Exactly.
And, while the idea of someone living to be 188 might be a fantasy, it does make you think, what if we channeled all that energy, all that fascination into something more productive?
Like what?
Like real scientific research on aging. What if, instead of getting sidetracked by internet hoaxes, we focused on understanding the aging process and promoting healthy longevity?
No, that's a future I could get behind.
Me too.
Well, there you have it, everyone. We went from a crazy headline about a guy living in a cave to a deep dive on misinformation and the very nature of human existence.
It's all connected, right?
It really is. But hey, that's what we do here on the Deep Dive. We dig deep, we ask the tough questions, and hopefully we all come away a little bit more informed.
And a little bit more skeptical. Don't forget that part.
Right. Always be questioning. And on that note, we're out. Catch you all on the next Deep Dive.